All right, welcome everyone. Today I decided we're going to be talking a little bit about silence. And I know we talked about it quite a bit on this channel. However, I decided I was going to go more into something bigger and more important on silence. Now, silence can save you a lot of trouble. And most of us, we know the things that we obviously just shouldn't say out loud. In fact, there's a lot of things we want to say out loud because we know it's the wrong thing to do, but yet we want to do it anyways. In fact, it being wrong makes us want to do things. And that's an indicator of a bigger underlying subconscious condition. That subconscious condition being a sort of misalignment. Because the subconscious and the individual subconscious in specific, it wants to be aligned with what it perceives to be as good. I know a lot of practitioners and, these internet gurus, say that if you dislike money, if you dislike people that have money or they're more successful than you, they're better looking than you, and maybe they have a lot of power. If you dislike them and you have a problem with them, well, then you're going to have misalignment. Then your subconscious will decide that, well, it doesn't want to be that because you've decided that that's bad. And so you're telling your subconscious that's bad. And so the subconscious decides, well, I don't want to be that. And the universe is not going to align with that. The reality will not align with that because it doesn't correspond. So that's problem number one. Now, what you do once you've broken your silence, that becomes a little more tricky. Because at that point, you've kind of already fucked up. Pardon my French. However, if you don't say anything at all after that, it can very quickly and easily, spiral out of control. However, being silent can give you plenty of opportunities to get things back on track. In fact, I would say in many cases that I've seen, if not most, a majority of the cases that I've seen, talking too much and trying to backtrack it with words just ends up making it even worse. So the best thing to do is to say less. And usually this whole thing was a cause of the effect of misalignment. Because if you are tempted to do something when you actively believe that it's wrong and it's bad and it's evil, and yet you still have this overwhelming temptation to do it anyways, well, there's going to be a bit of a conflict between the subconscious and the collective conscious and the personal conscious. You have these consciousnesses conflicting with one another. You get this clash and this calamity. And, well, that just leads to a whole new mess, which is typically how the mess has gotten in the first place. Now, I have a lot of personal experience with this. I'm not ashamed to say it. And even if I was, well, the fact that I'm saying it means I'm not ashamed to say it. While I don't necessarily have regrets as I, do accept and believe that everything in this universe is interconnected. Everything corresponds with one another, and every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause. So, had it not be for the things that happened in the past, things would not be the way they are today. And just because things are the way they are today doesn't mean that it has to be a certain way in the future. Every moment that passes by, well, is a moment that's gone. However, the moment right after it, however infinitely small of a gap in time there is between this moment and the next, is an opportunity for something new to happen. I mean, think about it. Quite a bit can happen in 1 second. A lot can happen in 1 second. A lot can happen in a millisecond. And that's a really good place to work off of. However, there's a bigger connection to all this. And so it is ultimately it's faith and it's hope. And it's, the good stuff that's out there. It keeps you going. But as far as what to do once you've broken that silence, once you've had that massive clash of the consciousnesses, of correspondences, well, best thing to do is, if every situation is to think positive. The second best thing to do is, out of sight, out of mind. Make a distraction. Make the truth less believable. Instill doubt. Use the subconscious. If you say certain things that are very inflammatory or inoffensive and they have certain effects, well, then you can subconsciously, you can use NLP and sigils and other forms of subconscious programming and other forms of just general programming to influence the connotations and or create cognitive dissonance. Now, it doesn't have to be as nefarious as some can make it out to be, as many people make this out to be, and it's done that way as, because the people that have the power don't really want you to have the power. That's part of it. And also because this information has a tendency to be used the wrong way for, I guess what many would consider the wrong reasons. Ironically, by those that are in the know and that have the power. That'll be about it for this one. I know we haven't been uploading for a little while, but we're getting back on track now, so take care and God bless.